Good afternoon. Thank you for coming.
Добрый день. Спасибо за то, что вы пришли.
Therefore, the whole session would be probably in English. And it's the second time when we have AAB session over here at Open Innovation Forum. We appreciate the support from Open Innovation. And when we selected a topic for our panel over here from Association of European Business in Open Innovation, we feel that sustainable development, it's our definitely priority for European companies, a priority for Association of European Business, and a lot of technologies that our companies, members of Association of European Business, brings to Russia definitely should be considered as sustainable technologies for sustainable development. Over here on a panel, we'll start with Frank Schauf, President of Association of European Business.
Thank you very much. Michael Akim, he's a member of the board of the Association of European Businesses and the chairman of our Modernization Innovations working group we have since more than a year now. Certainly it's a big pleasure to be part of this big event called Open Innovations. I understand it's the third time that it is being organized. We are here part of this for the second time. This is already a good tradition, and I hope that we also can continue this tradition in the future. The Association of European Businesses, just in order to say some words about our organization, represents more than 600 mostly larger, mostly European corporations who are doing business here in Russia. And we are in a very intense communication with the Russian authorities on the one hand, but also certainly with the EU authorities on the other hand. And these companies are very actively working, certainly here in the Russian environment, with regards to, say, modernizing the economic structure, and certainly by also investing into industry projects. They're also themselves projects of modernization for the Russian economy. The AMB member companies, I see here, let's say, the head of Philips in Russia. I see representative from Renault here in Russia. You are from the company ABB, for example, are certainly also highly innovative companies who are offering their competence in engineering, in energy efficiency, in IT or biomedical technologies, for example, to the Russian market. The members are very active with regards to projects which are related certainly to the Russian environment, to name, for example, Skolkovo and other Russian R&D centers all around the country. I assume that you, for example, could give quite a few examples of what you are doing together with Russian partners. In spite certainly of the political problems which we are encountering at the moment between the EU and Russia, and for example yesterday we discussed this also with Foreign Minister Lavrov, we assume that anyway the EU companies are a very valuable partner for Russia in terms of developing innovation, in terms of modernizing the Russian economy, and that the ability to commercialize innovation and new technologies is certainly also something which they can bring into the Russian environment. We are certainly in favor of continuing the cooperation between the private sector here in Russia, coming from Europe, and the Russian partners, be it private partners, be it state corporations. And certainly we hope that the political environment will very soon, let's say, change in such a manner that this cooperation will become easier again. In order to come to the topic a little bit of sustainable development, certainly, let's say, this catchphrase of sustainable development is something which has been discussed in Western Europe for a long time. I still can remember times when it was not so easy for companies to accept the idea of sustainable development. but I think it's also part of the modernization process of the Western European economy that sustainable development is a part of the concept of most European companies and also generally Western companies nowadays. And certainly what is important to keep an eye on is that economy or economic goals and ecology goals are not necessarily contradictory, but can certainly go hand in hand. And when I look, for example, now at production as it is, let's say, in Germany, where I come from, or in other Western European countries, and compare it to production which was there 20, 30 years ago, it's certainly very distinct, and certainly, let's say, the principle of sustainable development is part of the concept of production nowadays, generally in Western Europe, and also I think it's coming to the Russian environment more and more, and European companies will help in this. Also, when we talk about the lobbying issues which we are discussing with the Russian government, I give you two examples. One is the question of housing and construction in housing, and also the question of energy efficiency in housing. This plays a big role for us, and we are discussing this very intensively with the respective agencies and ministries on the Russian side. And one very important topic virtually for everybody here in Russia, not only for European companies, but also for Russian companies and also the consumer, is the question of waste management. So that we try to use our knowledge, our experience with regards to waste management, with regards to recycling, with regards to dealing correctly with waste, also here in the Russian Federation. And we try to advise the Russian government to come to a modern waste management system which it goes along the line of what we have, for example, in Western Europe. So we think that the core concept, the principle of sustainable development is an important one. It's important for our member companies, it's important for our association, and I hope that also during this discussion this will be a little more clearer. We are certainly very grateful for the organizers of Open Innovation that they have invited us to do this round this afternoon. I'm very grateful to Michael Akim, who has taken the initiative to organize it, and certainly I'm very happy that you gentlemen also have joined this round table. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frank, and it's really good introduction, and let me explain in a couple of words why this panel, why we feel it's important, why we feel that Association of European Business, it's ideal place to organize this type of approach. Not just panel, not just this discussion, but ongoing effort about sustainable development as a priorities for investment. We have about 600 members. And between 600 company members of Association of European Business, we have a unique technical expertise, and we have a unique economic expertise. Most of major industrial companies, like Frank mentioned, most of major banks, most of major consulting companies are members of Association of European Business. Therefore, it's a good chance to bring together those knowledges, because from one standpoint, it's a matter of investment, attractiveness of investment in Russian Federation first, attracting investment to sustainable development, and how to combine it. It's not that easy task. And this is the reason we have over here a representative of Swiss Embassy, because we are trying to analyze best experiences from all around Europe to bring best knowledge from different companies and from different governments. And let me introduce Tadzio Schilling, Head of Economic Affairs of the Embassy of Switzerland in Russia. We're doing a lot of effort together. For instance, we are trying to develop a topic of sustainable transportation. We have some other joint activities, and I really greatly appreciate what all dedication of Swiss embassy, including Ambassador Pierre Helk and other staff members of Switzerland embassy.
Thank you, Michael, for the nice words and your kind introduction. And okay, thank you. It's a great pleasure for me to be here today and to talk to you about the Sustainable Development Strategy of Switzerland. It will be a broad picture. I will not so much talk about technical issues, but really try to give you an overview of what is the approach of Switzerland in this area and what are the guiding principles. Switzerland, as you have mentioned it before, actually is in many ratings often quoted as one of the best performers, etc. But nobody is perfect. So Switzerland also needs international cooperation, needs international dialogue with its immediate neighbors, but also with countries like Russia to improve and to exchange in that field. And yeah, in trying to give you that example, it is not sustainable. Could you please move? Yeah. In trying to give you this example, now it goes way too fast, too far. Okay, never mind. To give you an overview, I will start with a strategy of the Federal Council in the area of sustainable development, then give an overview of the guiding principles and fundamental lines, talk a little bit about stakeholders and the implementation of this strategy, about the last action plan 2012 to 2015, and the instrument and approaches that are contained in this action plan. The strategy, the topic of sustainable development is in Switzerland a national priority. It is embedded in constitutional norms, and this means that all agencies, all bodies of the Swiss Confederation are obliged to abide to this principle and to implement it in their specific area. It is among the main national goals, objectives in Article 2 of the Constitution. Nevertheless, being a national priority, it is not a specific policy area or program, but rather the strategy in the area of sustainable development is a kind of reference framework that serves really to give orientation to political processes and a political decision making in a longer perspective. And if we look at the small picture at the bottom of the page, we see that the reflection, this process of thinking about a sustainable development strategy in Switzerland started in the wake of the Rio '92 summit, when there was an interdepartmental working group that was founded on the Rio topic. In '97, there was a first sustainable development strategy adopted by the Federal Council, and since then there have several others followed. And what we can observe is that two trends. On the one hand, there have been increasing efforts to bring the sustainable development strategy in line with other processes in Switzerland, especially with legislative planning, and therefore to enhance the possibilities to implement and to streamline this process by making them, by giving some kind of synchronization between the overall legislative process and this sustainable development approach. And the second trend is, as you can, for instance, see in 2012, there was the last update of the strategy This means that we also increasingly try to bring it in line with international development. It is no coincidence that this was the year of the Rio +20 conference. I won't talk about the results, but the efforts are clearly visible. And obviously this also means that for 2015 there will be a huge issue of the post-2015 Millennium Goals, etc. The fundamental principles and guidelines of our national strategy for sustainable development are very general, but nevertheless it's worthwhile to have a short look at them. Taking responsibility for the future means that we really should not live and work and do things in a way that limit possibilities for future generations in what field soever. And this has this implies two dimensions. One is that you should limit risks for future generations, and at the other hand, that you should enhance their capacities for dealing with issues related to sustainability. Nevertheless, sustainable development cannot be seen as a sole goal or as an isolated target. It needs to be seen in a broader context. This means that there has to be a balanced consideration of three target dimensions: economic performance, social development and well-being, as well as environmental stability and biodiversity. And as I said before, since the Swiss approach in sustainable development is one of building up a framework, this means that it has to be incorporated in all policy areas. And therefore there have to be mechanisms that can assure a coherence and coordination between these different policy areas. And this means not only that that these potential conflicts and potential conflicting objectives need to be identified at a very early stage, so that they can be discussed and resolved in a manner as to allow for an efficient implementation. And in order to achieve this goal, to have a good coordination, a coherent approach covering all these different policy areas and all these actors involved, obviously there have to be forged sustainable development partnerships. That means involve all the stakeholders, and at every step of from the design of such a strategy to its implementation, to its final assessment of the implementation after. One slide ahead. And if we talk about stakeholders and implementation, this obviously means it's also important to understand the roles of the different stakeholders. So the federal government sees its responsibility mainly as a development of strategy and an action plan, the framework conditions, coordination between different agencies, as well between different subjects of the Swiss Confederation, and obviously execution for the executive. But as you know, Switzerland is a federal state, so this also means that the cantons have a large share of responsibility in implementing and developing. The municipalities, the cities also are to be involved. And obviously, on the other side, not from the official side, but from the side of the civil society, there is the whole business community that needs to be involved, the associations, NGOs, as well as every individual, since it's not only about policy programs or regulations for companies, but every individual can also adapt his or her behavior. And if we talk, next slide, if we talk about the action plan 2012-2015, we can see, I don't want to touch upon every topic, but what I would like to say here is what you can see from this action plan is that the approach of the Swiss government is really very comprehensive. What you would traditionally think or expect to see in such a plan is climate change, energy, use of natural resources, and global developmental and environmental challenges. But here you can see that really there is a spatial development, the social cohesion, public health, even the fiscal issues are seen in Switzerland as to be a key component of sustainable development. And the instruments and approaches that are designed to implement this strategy, they are almost naturally derived from what I have said so far. It means the Confederation has to facilitate a dialogue between public and private sector stakeholders. We have to permanently assess in the legislative process, in the executive bodies, and on every level, federal as well as cantonal, the sustainability dimension of policy making. And we are currently developing various indicators of how to measure this impact and how to measure performance in this field. And there are government agencies, the Agency for Spatial Planning, that has a kind of coordinating role, and that makes several tools available to the different stakeholders, like specially designed processes, standards, databases, and other instruments to help them accomplish in their specific field of action their individual targets. We have also a kind of a book of best practice of successful projects where other interested stakeholders can try to learn from. And we are also trying to implement this policy really until the very bottom in the neighborhood to really create these links and these networks between the business circles, between inhabitants of areas in cities, and to really share this through the whole vertical line of social organization. This is basically a short overview over our approach, and if there are specific questions, I've not talked about money. This is very important to understand that the Swiss government always really tries to focus on enhancing and enabling and promoting ideal or better framework conditions so that others who are in a better position to do the real job can do so. This is the principle of subsidiarity that is very strong in our constitution, in our political culture, and therefore I've not been talking so much about money. There is money behind this program as well. We give grants, we give financial support, but mainly it's about framework conditions, and this also means that it's technologically neutral. We are not promoting specific technologies in our sustainable development strategy, but rather try to achieve goals and then in the process see what may be the best technologies and instruments to attain them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tadze. I would like to ask you a question following your remarks. About type of financial incentive for different projects. Perhaps if a number of countries have an expert support for any different means of financial expert support. Right now, this type of effort also in Russia, Exim Bank in the US, so different countries doing that different. For Switzerland, what kind of export support specific to sustainable technologies, and what sectors of Swiss industry you see could be placed in Russia and implemented and in demand in Russia?
Thank you, Mikhail, for this question. I think you touch a very important point, and I would also say personally that studying the documents of this issue and being here in Moscow in the economic division of our embassy, this was astonished me also, because there should be a clear export dimension in this whole strategy, and it was a kind of lacking. So I think there is room for maneuver. Switzerland has traditional tools for export promotion. There are institutions of export insurance. We work together very closely with different financial institutions, both from Switzerland, from Europe, and from Russia, talking about this context here. And I think in the future, actually, we need to develop the export dimension of this strategy in order that innovative Swiss companies that have technologies to offer in this field can benefit from a kind of support to enter other markets, from the disseminating information to helping really conclude export contracts and giving the necessary finance.
Thank you. I believe it's extremely, extremely important, as the cost of money in Russia is quite high, and with the current situation with the ruble to currencies exchange ratio, it's definitely some kind of state support from an exporting country. That should be really great. And now I would like to switch to a representative from financial institution. Patrick Williams is extremely well known in Russia for his efforts to promote and implement renewable energy. So for a number of years, my understanding of Patrick, how many? 5 years? Yeah, 5 years, you're like a symbol of renewable energy in Russia. And finally, this State Order 449 is in place, and very much thanks to your effort. So we're still fighting to modify requirement of this regulation, and we all together for this effort. So what's your vision? What's the next step for sustainable development? And is there any, you representing International Financial Corporation, which is one of the major financial institutions. How do you see the role of the financial institution to promote sustainable development in Russia?
Well, thank you very much, Mikhail, for this rather flattering introduction, and for giving me the occasion to be a member of this distinguished panel. I will sometimes steer away a bit from my role as the representative of the International Finance Corporation and give a few ideas which I have developed over the course of the years that we've been trying to promote sustainable development here in Russia. When I talk about sustainable development, I must immediately add that I'm more talking about infrastructure and then even more specifically energy procurement. And there's the first thing to remember when we talk about sustainable development in the energy field. It is that any decision that you take as a government organization or as a regulatory body on the energy landscape is going to affect this energy landscape for a very long time. This means that if you make mistakes, unfortunately, you will have to live with these mistakes for many years to come. We all know that in this respect, Russia may actually have a chance rather than a handicap, because the age of the generation power here in Russia is quite high. We're nearing an average age for a power station of 40 years, which is tremendous. But that is actually a good opportunity to take a holistic approach and to make sure that the decisions that we make for the future will be the right ones. And I would not necessarily say that we in Europe or in the Western world have taken the right initiatives in the past. I see that we have basically all followed the model of setting up huge generation power in remote stations and then building many lines to wherever they are needed. It is costly and it forgets one thing. And we have recently seen so many examples of serious climate action where suddenly your transport lines no longer work because they're flooded, where electricity lines are blown apart by falling wind trees. So you should be very careful, and one of the things that I think we should learn for the future is to go more towards distributed generation and less towards wholesale generation. And this is also where I think renewable energy has the most important functions. Now, the second problem is that these decisions, which affect the landscape for 30 years, we are asking politicians with a mandate of 4 to 5 years to make these decisions. So this is a problem because these people obviously think about their own future as well. And who wants to take unpopular but necessary measures which are going to show their benefit only after 10 to 15 years, when most likely I'll be voted out of power because of my stupid decision? This is the second problem. Now, more to the topic of what works and what doesn't work. Of course, maybe Frank, can I ask you to give us the first slide? Okay, I'll continue talking. So, I don't think I need to present the IFC, but we are the private equity arm of the World Bank Group. And indeed, let him who knows best do what he's best at. And we certainly believe that private sector stands better as the promoter for sustainable development than government institutions. Government institutions should provide a regulatory framework which allows the private sector to operate. That's it. Now, that's easily said than done. And here I'm going to make a second statement which may come over as somehow provocative, but for those of you who know me better, unfortunately, I cannot resist. I always hear when we talk about barriers, there's legal uncertainty, there's not the rule of law. This may all well be true. But let me tell you what, in my opinion, is the biggest barrier to sustainable development anywhere, not only in Russia. Mark my statement: vested interest. There are too many people who would like things to continue as they are because they're comfortable with the situation, because they make money with the situation. And let me give you one simple example here in Russia where, with my program, we have seen examples of situations where renewable energy makes economical sense. You all know that there are a lot of remote areas where electricity production is done by very old and very polluting diesel installations. It costs a fortune to bring this diesel to these stations, especially in the winter when temperatures no longer allow transport by road. And so it would make a lot of sense to replace these fuel diesel installations by hybrid installations, where we have partly of the energy produced by either wind or solar, whatever the situation, and let the diesel work in the background when these natural resources don't work. And we have several examples, casebook examples, where we can show that it would be a lot cheaper. But we're not getting anywhere. Guess why? Because a lot of people make good money on these diesels. Okay, this is the second statement. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so in this presentation, I'm going to give 3 examples of what I think can be done from the financial side to help promote sustainable energy. And I think that there are 3 things to remember. First of all, for any new development, you need pilot or demonstration projects. And it is up to the government to make this money available. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. And a good example of this is the fund in Alaska. I think I'm already on the next slide, actually. Can I have the next slide? So in Alaska, there is a fund which has been given only to do technical studies. So the money is there to do technical studies in remote areas for providing renewable energy solutions. It has been so successful that when the fund was explenished, it was after 5 years, the government has decided to replenish it with another $200 million. And this fund has given rise to a lot of initiatives which have each been studied to their validity and which are being now put into practice with the help of financial sector money. So the government provides the money for the technical assistance to show that the project economically and technically makes sense. And then the private sector comes in and makes these projects work in the field. This is the thing. Then something I would like to talk about also, next slide please, is something that we have done in Europe and which you may have heard about. Any of you here familiar with the Covenant of the Majors, the Covenant of Majors? Frank, I'm sure you've heard about it, but this has been an initiative which shows, and for me this is also very important, sustainable development eventually will be an economic mandatory concept. 14 or 15 years ago, the World Bank Group introduced the Equatorian Principles for the financial sector. And it was not obliged, but basically any bank that, that respected itself and that wanted to have good shareholders value, eventually was almost forced to adopt these principles for lending and for financial operations, transparency, that it has become a standard. We're trying to do the same now for companies by creating a sustainability index. And we gradually want companies to start thinking about this index. It is no obligation, but again, gradually companies will be forced to take into consideration their carbon footprint. And we see many examples of companies that already are doing a major effort in this field, and they are here, present also. So this Covenant of the Majors is an initiative from the European Commission in Brussels, but it's really a grassroots movement. I mean here that all these initiatives take place on the local, municipal or city level. It is a voluntary program. Next slide, please. It is a voluntary program, and it today already has some 6,500 communities, which could be a region, a city, municipality, which have signed up. What you engage yourself to when you sign up with the Covenant of the Majors is that you're going to give an action plan of what you want to do, that you should have your CO2 emissions reductions beyond what the EC is trying to obtain. We're all familiar, I guess, with the 20-20-20 rule. And finally, you should report on your progress on a regular basis. Those are the three rules of the games for becoming an example of the Covenant of the Majors. And because of that, already some almost 200 million European citizens, which out of the 450 is quite impressive, are somehow covered by this initiative. And I think it's very important for any breakthrough of a sustainable development that you involve the people at the local level. And I've given two examples here on the slide. One is a city in Estonia, who itself is financing the installation of 4 windmills. They are each 3.3 megawatt. Their city is financing it completely out of its own budget. And of course, it has calculated that in due course, these windmills will reduce the energy cost to the population. With these 4 windmills, they expect to cover about 40% of the needs of electricity in that region. there are many other examples. The city of Tallinn, for instance, also is giving complete free public transport. The city of Nantes in France has made it its policy to make its public transport network available to 95% of its population. That means that 95% of the population in Nantes has to walk no longer than 15 minutes to a public transport. Another initiative on the next slide is a city which is following a principle which is advocated by the climate change panel, and it concerns port. I'm not a port specialist, and I didn't even know, but most of these ships, when they berth, they use their own diesel installation to provide power to their ship when it's docked in the port. And it's not so difficult for any port city to provide what they call on-land power supply. And with that, you obviously create a much more friendly environment, and again, a more economically logical solution for energy provision. So with that having said, I think that the most important thing to remember when it comes to financing, I always say it is not true that investors look for profit. Of course, they look for profit, but first and foremost, they want to know clear rules of the games. And here I repeat again that clear rules of the games, we should get rid of the vested interest, and the clear rules will come by themselves. This is the first thing. Secondly, they should be protected against any adverse effect of legislation. The investor's right should be protected. And then last but not least, it should be for a sufficient period to allow for a reasonable return on investments. But these practices are known, which is why I did not want to go too much into these details. So with these few examples, I just wanted to give an idea about what can be done. I don't know if Russia is a place which would be open to such a Covenant of the Majors initiative. It's been extremely successful, and of course now almost every city or every community feels obliged to become a part of this Covenant of the Majors. But it's just examples of where things start from the grassroots level, because I really believe that sustainable development should be a bottom-up process and not a top-down process. With that, Mikhail, I will stop my intervention here and give the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And I like very much your initiative of this renewable energy breakfast that you are doing time to time for industry. And what I would like to propose you to consider, maybe you should make a little bit broader, like breakfast, business breakfast for sustainable development or investment in sustainable development technologies. You are right person, and IFC would be a right place for this type of initiative. Please consider.
I certainly will, Michael. Thank you for the suggestion. But you know, in IFC, everybody somehow is engaged with sustainable development. I have colleagues who deal with energy efficiency. I have colleagues who deal with waste development. I have colleagues who are concerned with greener building. So then I would have to get them on board and share the breakfast with us. But why not? Absolutely.
This is the reason, and since you and your organization and attracting other expertise from members of AAB, we would be able to provide what's most important, to educate consumers, customers, B2B, B2G.
That's a very important comment, Michael, and I always say you cannot force adults not to smoke or to drink, but you can tell children what to read in school.
Thank you. Now I would like to introduce another speaker, Stuart Lawson, partner of Ernst & Young in Russia, EY, but more known as Ernst & Young, and Stuart is the head of the investment committee in the Association of European Business. Stuart every year publishing absolutely wonderful, interesting document which called a guide how to invest in Russia. And it's pretty soon coming this year edition. I'm trying to contribute every year because I feel it's really important to. By the way, over here some magazines we brought with us. It's a Business Quarterly for Association of European Business. So please welcome to take a copy. And perhaps for our next event would be those copies of guides how to invest in Russia. So Stuart, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. That was like an unpaid advertisement. Thank you. Well, actually, in a way, this is rather a good environment to be talking about sustainable investment, because it's always difficult to get that topic across because you may not be able to hear it. So this is actually a rather appropriate sense-around experience. I find it's actually quite interesting because I'm sitting next to a banker. Actually, for 35 years I was a banker, but a commercial banker with a couple of large multinationals and a couple of Russian banks. And it's interesting listening to the idea that this that the sustainable investment should not be driven by government. I was thinking about it from the other perspective. As a commercial banker, you know, I would look at an investment proposal in terms of risk, and secondly, in terms of value. The value, obviously, would be well, one of the ways of looking at the value is the discounted future cash flows. And if I'm being given a choice between two investments, two projects, one that's a sustainable project and the other that is not a sustainable project in terms of the way it's configured, I would want to know that that sustainable investment, which presumably would cost more money. I mean, that is an assumption that I make, but I assume that this incremental element, which creates the sustainability, will incur incremental cost. What I would be looking for, assuming that I was looking at this purely commercially, is how can I access value for that incremental cost? And certainly there are two ways of looking at that. The first is to say, can I access some goodwill element, which is either through fiscal breaks or through some investment program that the government and the region create so that I have a tax advantage. And then if I have that tax advantage, because I'm a cold-hearted commercial banker, I would want to know that that tax advantage is something that can be assigned to me as the lender, and that I can then pass on in the event that the investment itself fails, that the original sponsor fails. Because if I'm adding that to the value of the project, clearly I want to be able to, as my second way out, access that incremental value. Now, there is another way of looking at this, of course, which is to invert that perspective and to actually say, perhaps the way to look at this is, what are the penalties if I do not have sustainable development? And I've been involved in, and this is in the US environment, in companies where, because they trigger environmental issues, they create a massive liability. And fear is a great motivator. So, in fact, one of the ways that you can actually propose a sustainable environment is actually by threatening the downside liability. The second point that I'd make is that we've been hearing throughout this about the need to assess the value of these sustainable developments. Well, before you can assess anything, you have to be educated. So you have to take this back, as in many other investment scenarios, and say, what are we doing to educate decision makers in the value of the sustainable proposals? And, you know, who is involved there is not just the people who are going to make the original investment proposal, but obviously people in government, people in terms of the providers to that investment, and the bankers. Without that sort of education, it's very difficult to be able to assess the value. Anyway, that's really all I had to say. So there you are.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And I appreciate the effort for our first half panel speakers, because we have two half panels over here. First, our half panel was from financial and government perspective, and right now we change our speakers to a representative from industry. And thank you, gentlemen. I would like you to please take a seat at in the first row. And gentlemen, who's speakers for our second part of the panel, please take your seats. So we continue our panel, and right now, as a first speaker, I would like to introduce Kurt Kartenegger. I never, when I moderate a panel, it's some time happening, and I never invite anybody from our company, because I feel it's unpolite. But this is a very special case. Kurt, first time in Russia, and he is running our venture business for ABB Global. He is running our venture company, venture business, and since a big part of the portfolio relevant to sustainable development technologies, I just thought that it's such a wonderful opportunity to invite him for a panel. So, Kurt.
Thank you very much, Mikhail. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I must say I enjoyed it really very much, and I have to come back, of course. That's my first time, but it's not my last time, I'm quite sure. And the reason why I'm here is to learn more about opportunities here, and the two key words what we have here in this session is sustainability and is investment. And investment, as you said, Michael, is exactly the topic what I'm interested here in, and of course sustainable investment. So what I'm looking for is technologies where I can invest money, and that could be from $1 million up to $20 million per investment. It really depends on the technology. And it can be early stage, it can be late stage, we are stage agnostic. And what I'm looking for is what really can influence Russia as well, where we can make more business here, where we can do better. And the aspect of sustainability reflects very nice, I think, what is our vision in ABB, and you know it very well, that's power and productivity for a better world. And for a better world says already, we are looking for sustainable solutions. And that's in the power and automation side. So we are looking for a sustainable solution where you can save, where you can reduce, not where we just look for recycling and such things. We are looking for reducing energy waste, for example. We are not saying that we should use less energy at the end, but we should use it in a better way. So from that point, I'm of course interested in technologies and to invest in technologies where we have less losses. Because if I look on the primary energy and what is at the end used at the energy, 50% is lost from an electric energy transportation, for example. If we have now better inverter technologies, better transformer technologies, we can save a lot of energy. And of course, it's the nature of physics that at the end, every energy will land at heat. Yeah, let us reuse heat. So every technology which is reusing waste heat is interesting as well, of course. And then other technologies on the renewable side are very interesting for investments for us. Solar, for example, and Patrick mentioned it before. Yeah, it's very difficult to get distributed generation somewhere approved because the horizon that there's a payback is too long, and managers have no incentive to do that. But let us think differently. Let us think where makes it sense. And that's, I think, very important, always to look what's the incentive to do something. If we go to a CEO of a company and tell him, look, use a drive technology for your electromotor that it's more efficient, we are not telling him, look, you can have less CO2 and the electromotor is better. And we tell him, look, you save so and so much money. In 2 months, you start saving money because most what you pay for an electromotor is the electricity bill over the lifetime of the electromotor. So one incentive is cost saving, is money. But there could be other incentives. And incentives can come from the government as well. And you think, maybe you don't think that this is interesting for an investor like me, but for me it's very interesting to see what the government thinks as well. If the government, for example, gives subsidies for solar like they have done in Germany, then solar will grow there. And then I know, okay, this is a topic for investment there as well. And if it makes sense or not to have solar in Germany, it doesn't matter. If I know there is a regulation, the government is supporting that, then it makes sense for us as well. Therefore, for me, it's interesting as well to see this, not only the bottom-up, as Patrick mentioned before, the top-down is interesting for us as well. Of course, it's both dimensions. It's not just one where we are looking for. And in general, I think we should look, and we believe in these contradictive cycles. In the contradictive cycle where we know we are now in this IT age, we have this change from analog to digital, we have to understand that the young people who are growing up now are a digital generation. They are thinking differently than we. And there we have to look for incentives. What can we do that they will buy the more sustainable products? It makes no sense to go to one and tell him, look, your home automation system saves you so and so much energy per month. So they think, oh, nice, yeah, but they will not buy it. If I tell them, look, you have much more comfort in your home, you have a much safer environment, then they will buy it. If on top of it you have energy saving, that's great. But we always have to think on the incentive. And that's what I want to learn here as well. What could be incentives where we can make investments? That's my point.
Thank you very much, Kurt. What you're saying basically could reflect to all three market segments. One is B2C, another is B2B, and another is B2G. And in Russia, if we're talking about Russian market, still about 70% of investment, capex investment, is somehow related to state-controlled companies, state project infrastructure that somehow controlled by state. So it's B2G segment. When you're selecting project and technologies in your portfolio, my understanding is the packaging of this project really should depend on what end market should be. How you differentiate what technologies you're selecting for which segment?
That's a good question, because there is a difference between how you make business, how our company is making daily business, day-to-day business. There, of course, it's very important to know, is it business to government, is it business to business, what we are mainly doing. But we, in technology ventures, we have a time horizon of where we are looking for what's needed in 5 years, what can influence our business in 5 to 10 years. And what we can see as a trend is this inverse consumerization. That means that technologies which start now in consumer industry will have an influence later on in our industry. So for us, it's a broader field. So we are looking even what's happening in the consumer industry. So we can invest even in technologies which are today in consumer industry and tomorrow will be in our industry and in government use. In the past, it was different. In the past, something was developed for military, then it was used in industry, and later on in consumer industry. Today, we see a trend which goes the other way around. And we have it already in ABB. We are using these Game Boys and these iPads for robot programming, for example. Or there are other technologies as well where we see, okay, already what's in the consumer. Therefore, our spectrum is very broad, much broader than you in the daily business.
Thank you very much, Kurt. Peter Willings is the president of Philips in Russia and CIS, right? And my understanding, it's a very good combination because of the speakers over here, because Kurt is representing a company that very much in supplying heavy electrical machinery, and Philips is our good partner because Philips very much is in lighting, very much in consumer products, and very much in medical devices, which is really high tech. So what do you feel, you in Russia, you're familiar with Russian market. Kurt saying from global perspective, what do you see as a potential for sustainable technology, sustainable development for your company in Russia?
Thank you, Michael. It's a real pleasure to be in this forum because we are indeed, as Philips, in the B2C, in the B2B, and the B2G business. And for us, sustainability is very important because a lot of people might not know, but almost 50% of our products in both B2C as B2B are perceived as green. If you look to our R&D, we spend as a company around 1.8 billion euro on innovation, out of which 600 million is related to sustainable products. So sustainability within the company is very crucial. I'm here now in Russia for almost 5 years. Actually, next month 5 years, so really almost. Yeah, and I think I've seen some positive trends in terms of sustainability, but some way to go. And I would also like to comment on the previous speakers and a little bit more specific on the Russian environment. If I look to consumers, the fun part of my job is, and I really like it, is that once times per month on a Friday, I'm going to visit the Russian consumers in their house to see, let's say, what are their needs to get consumer insights. And one of the questions I always ask is about sustainability and how green are you? And I have to say, and then I also come back on what Stuart mentioned about education. I think I fully agree with you, Stuart, that we need to do a lot of education on government and providers, but I think also for consumers, there's some room for further development in terms of education, because I have to say that generally, if I ask the Russian consumers, most not really, I wouldn't say interest, but it's not really a key decision point for purchasing to say, okay, I'm going for a product that's really green or not. And if they look into it, they look more into the economic benefit. It will consume less energy, for instance, rather than, let's say, looking to the overall sustainability. So I think also from consumer point of view, there's a lot of, could be more focus on education. If I look to the B2B and the B2G environment, and then I'm especially will focus on lighting, then I absolutely, yeah, to the 2 points Paul mentioned, one I have a slightly different view, and the other one I fully concur. Where, let's say, because he mentioned about legal requirements and whatever, people easily focus on that in Russia and can sometimes use it as a bit of an excuse, which I agree. However, I think if you look into sustainability and also in energy efficiency in Russia, some way to go. I think the good part is that there is a clear program on energy efficiency 2020, which says 45% reduction of energy versus 2012. However, the roadmap, tools, audits, how to go there, that is really something to work on. What I also find missing, let's say Paul was focusing a lot on energy, let's say sourcing, alternative sources. We are more in the LED technology and more in reduction of consumption. Because also, just to share with the audience, with the new LED technology, you can reduce energy consumption up to 85%. 85% reduction. And easily 50%. What's the issue now in Russia is that there are no clear quality standards. So there is a lot of LED imported, which is from extremely poor quality. And though the advantage of LED is that it will create more light and you don't have to bother about it for, let's say, 10 years, the fact is that it creates much less light and sometimes it works not longer than 3 months. So in my discussion with governors and institutions, let's say there's a lot of negative sentiment about LED. And I think there the government and the regional government and federal government have to play a role, which I'm also discussing with the Minister of Energy, is there has to be standards. Because otherwise, no way LED will be, let's say, introduced in Russia like we see in other countries. Where I agree also with Paul is the difference, the conflict of interest, if I may say. Because in the same example which you use, Paul, in rural areas, we do the same, but then let's say from the other side, and that is saving energy. Despite, let's say, high investments, the payback period in rural areas less than 1 year. Less than 1 year. Because the price of energy is sometimes 10 times of more than, let's say, than the energy price in the cities. But then it comes, conflict of interest. You mentioned the view. I will mention, let's say, there are a lot of companies who are related to maintenance of, let's say, energy. Yeah, the advantage of LED is that you don't need to maintain. You have a good installment, and if you have the right quality, you don't need to bother for the coming years. So also there, I see quite some areas of improvement. So in a nutshell, I think in Russia, let's say, both from the B2C, B2B, B2G, I have seen good improvements. The awareness is getting there. At least we are talking about it. There is at least a law which look for a strong reduction of energy consumption by 45% in 2020. However, the implementation and what does it mean, let's say, the total ecosystem, I would say something we need to work on. And of course, as a company as Philips, we continue to lobby and to push the government and regional governments to go to the next step.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And this point about educating consumers, I believe, is really key, because if we are talking about the cost of electricity in Moscow region, for instance, it's quite common when people for their summer houses paying about 5 rubles per kilowatt hour, which is 10 euro cents, which is a lot of money, and it's already pretty a good level to consider solar panels. However, I didn't see many solar panels around Moscow. It's a wrong perception that the solar panels should be only in the south region with not in this climate, which is not true. And back to your point, we should educate. Patrick, you have a great experience educating people. Let's get together about really making some kind of common program, education program, some kind of program for calculate the cost of implementing technology, because this is really how sustainable it's for consumer. Not just how sustainable it's to society, but if consumer buying just on price, not on a life cycle cost, which is not the right case.
I fully agree, Michael. And my interaction with the consumers is that it's just a little bit imprinted in the head that energy cost in Russia is low, and hence it's economically not interesting to do something about it, which is not correct. I fully agree.
The cost energy is not low already, because 10 euro cents per kilowatt hour, my understanding, it's not that low. And the trend is upward, very severe trend. So it's really a problem. Now, I would like to switch to Igor Titov, Vice President of Renault in Russia. And my understanding for your company, the sustainable development has two sides. Igor. One is you're probably one of largest producers over here in Russia, and one of largest producers, maybe the largest in Moscow, right? From another standpoint, you have a new products, electric vehicles that already implemented in France, and everybody is anxious to see those your electric vehicles in Russia. So, what's your perspective, from your company perspective, of sustainable development of your company in Russia?
Thank you very much, Michael. I prepared the presentation, but before describing what is designed in these beautiful pictures, I would like to say a few words of my own understanding in the past and today of the sustainable development regarding transport. A few years ago, maybe more than 10 years ago, I was working in a Gazprom daughter company, which is designed to develop equipment for CNG cars, CNG refilling stations, and Russia is very much interested in developing natural gas resources and to use it instead of oil in transportation vehicles. And I was very enthusiastic about that, and I brought this idea to Moscow mayor, the old Moscow mayor, saying, look, we have a very clear CO2-friendly fuel, and why not use this fuel for Moscow big cities, because transportation is paying about 80% of pollution in Moscow, in big cities. So reply was, forget about it. Forget about it, because it was more than 10 years ago, because from now on, all humankind will pay attention only to electric vehicles. And only after being in Renault, joining Renault, I understand that it is true. Why? Not only because it is environmentally friendly, not because it makes no noise, because it's very important also that during nights, during highways, there will be not such big noises like like we have right now in our cities. Most important thesis I used to emphasize in different meetings in Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Economy, and Ministry of Energy, that electric vehicles are very energy efficient. So we made very short calculations of energy efficiency, and I will give you just result. Just if we use the car with oil engine, gasoline engine, and use this car for 30,000 kilometers, we will use about 3,120 liters. And if it will be diesel engine, it will be 1,740 liters. Let's calculate it in, so to say, we use this word in Russia. I don't know whether it is used in Europe or it is used. We use such a word like energy units. Energy units. It will be for gasoline cars, it will be 3,500 ton, 3 ton and a half. For diesel engine, it will be 2 ton, approximately 2 tons. And for electric vehicles, it will be only half of ton. So you can imagine how energy efficient electric vehicles for economy and not only for energy. So it is a very, very big task for all Europe, for all world, and of course for Russia to pay more attention to these kind of vehicles. So what is done by Russia now, and what is necessary to be done? First of all, Russia has for 2 years implemented the import-free period for electric vehicles. It's a very good sign. There is some additional measures which are discussed. Moscow City implemented special attitude for electric cars for parking, free parking, and we are discussing the possibility of using lines devoted to public transportation. And but it is still not enough. Still not enough because in Europe we know, and you know, Mike, very well, that in Europe we have a special bonuses and subsidies. In France it's about 5,000 euro per car, and thinking about how much is the cost of the car, this additional amount is very, very helpful. And I will see you in further slides how it helps to develop fleets and market of electric vehicles in Europe. Just first slide, I would like to show what cars, electric cars, we developed in Renault, and I would like to say that our car was probably the first who entered the way of mass production of electric car. The cost of production, for the final client for electric cars is absolutely the same like the cost of the gasoline car or diesel car. But in this scheme we don't add the cost of the battery, which is very important notice, because we give the battery in leasing, so to say. We take from the client about 70 euro per month to use this battery. That is very important for the client, because he knows for sure that he can change the battery if it will be something different. So we have now 4 models which are very popular in France, and not only in France. Next slide, please. This slide shows you how much we have an increase of market in Europe, for not only first is in Europe, and secondly the increase of sales of electric vehicles in all over the world. First place is the United States, then Japan and European countries. You see that at least total sales of the electric cars nearly doubles each year. Unfortunately, Russia is not in this chart, because we are selling. Renault is not yet selling these cars, but our competitors are selling electric cars. It is only hundreds, not thousands, only hundreds. It's very few amount of electric vehicles. Please, next. You know that until today there is no clear reply. What is the best solution? Hybrid, natural gas, or electric vehicles? For Renault, we decided that most energy efficient and more prominent in the future will be electric vehicles. And this chart shows that at least at Europe, sales of electric vehicles, which just started a few years ago, you will find that it was only 2011, and you will see that number of electric cars which we are selling in Europe is doubles 5 times of hybrid cars. And if you take specific model, it is hybrid in Europe, it is more than 21 times than hybrid. It's a very important result, and it shows that clients are very confident in the future of electric vehicles, and it is very perspective means of transportation. And for Renault, I will show you in the next chat, please. For Renault, we consider, in Renault we don't produce hybrid vehicles, because we are thinking that electric vehicles is the most important and most reliable in two ways. First, we don't create a gasoline engine, we have only an electric engine. We don't spend a lot of time for repairing, for refueling with oil, with changing spare parts, because we have only electric engine, that's it. Without automatic transmission, without mechanic transmission, the construction of the car is very simple. And this chart wants to show one disadvantage of the electric vehicles. What is it? It is short mileage. For Renault and for all our rivals and competitors, we have nearly the same mileage of the car. Electric car is 150 kilometers. But our client says in different market surveys that what they want to see from us and from other manufacturers is 200 to 250 kilometers for one refilling. And but what is interesting, that most of the clients are not making big trips during the day. So if they have refilling charging station in their houses, in a garage, they can do it every day in the night. You know probably that in Moscow city and other cities of Russia, cost of the night electricity is 3 times lower than a daytime cost. Next time, please. So, in order to fight with these disadvantages, all countries are trying to make, so to say, quick charge stations. What is it? It is a very small box which can help you to recharge the car during 20 minutes. If you have during you're having a snack in the bar, during you have a lunchtime, you can recharge this car, your car in a very fast way. And this slide shows you the countries which are going through this specific program. Next slide. And specifically in Europe, there is, I would say, electric highways, which allows the drivers to quickly refill their electric cars on the highways. And this will be the main routes of the, so to say, electric highways in Europe. Next please. What I would like you to pay attention to is that today nearly all the companies developing electric vehicles technology. This chart shows you that all the manufacturers, main manufacturers of the world, are designing electric vehicles, and you will see that not all of them designing hybrids or LNG, LPG vehicles. So today it is most widely accepted technology which will be the most developed in the near future. And what next slide? And what we should do in Russia to develop this technology? Probably this is a question to the government, because why Renault we are not yet in the market? Because today we don't have many clients and we don't have much orders. That's why we didn't start our sales. And our experience in France shows that the first step is done by the governments, probably local governments, some special state-owned corporations, energy corporations, Gazprom, I don't know, Lukoil, and who, or energy, Rosnano, I don't know, who can buy fleets from electric car manufacturers. And the second idea which we are using and discussing today with the Moscow City is how we can together develop car sharing in Moscow City. And our cars could be probably one of the choice because they are small, they don't take too much time on, don't take too much place on the parking place, and we are quite developed in this term in Europe, and we are using our cars in Paris, in different cities of the world. So, in our point of view, electric vehicles is the choice of the future, and we are going to cooperate with Moscow City and with the state government to help Russia to move this way.
Thank you very much, Igor. And I'm really happy that we have this joint effort. Last year, a year ago, in a Foreign Investment Advisory Council, we were grouping together with a number of players, Renault, Mitsubishi, ABB, and we were really pushing for this technology, or we were pushing to attract government attention to this. Finally, this year, we receive zero custom duty for electric vehicles, for battery electric vehicles. Right now, we are pushing for plug-in hybrid. We're pushing for some intensive for infrastructure. So it's really great that this effort taking place, and also even in the State Duma, and we have a committee expert group that dedicated to electric vehicles, to environmentally friendly transportation, which is great, and a great effort together. Different players, even direct competitors, are paying a lot of attention for this joint effort. And now, it's intentionally, I left for as a last speaker a representative of UIT company, which is an integrator, a very famous construction company that able to combine all those technologies together. Because before we were speaking about financing mechanism, about the state support, about some industrial technology, about lighting technology, energy efficiency technology, about integrating new means of transportation and new infrastructure. Now the floor is yours for you as an integrator of all technologies in one place.
Thank you, Michael. My name is Artak Magren. I'm representing YIT. YIT is the largest Finnish construction company. However, in Russia, we are acting as a purely developer and investor. So I have prepared a few slides for you. And next slide, please. Before thinking about sustainability, and any issue in YIT, let's say strategical issue, we look what are the current trends in the market. And here I highlighted few mega trends that we see is important for us, for our product. And the first one, as you see, is climate change. Climate change is really the key driver for energy efficient technologies and sustainable development. We have actually two priorities in YIT, two main priorities. One is work safety, and second is sustainable development. And we see our main difference and opportunities is there. The second, of course, is urbanization and attractive cities, good infrastructure, city appearance is needed. And on the second part of this slide, you can see our reply, how we are going to reply to each of these mega trends. People start appreciating more healthy style of life and some additional areas for sport, running, green areas we have to provide in our area development. More and more decision making moves to online, and most of the people lives online. So we are as much as possible tied our products to online activities. Unfortunately, in Russia also is structure of the family is changing, and single and double living is appreciated by people, and they more and more live alone. And our reply here, we offer small but functional apartments. And people, next item for us is safety, and we offer them safety environment. Now let me briefly explain what I mean here. So what is living area components? In this slide, in general, to get the idea, we highlighted the living area components, which is ecology, transport, sport, healthcare, social infrastructure and education, spirit, cultural development, leisure and services. Next slide, please. On this slide, who can be the potential project participants? Businesses, banks, architects, investors, citizens from different sectors such as business, state, and public, public, or financial. And we see ourselves, as Michael said, as a core for the cooperation of all these different institutions. Next, please. Here is living environment and participants. For example, if we want to have in our project some sport areas with whom we can discuss it. And basically, of course, this is authorities or some sport clubs. If we talk about transport, we can invest ourselves in roads, but also we need assistance from municipalities and federal government. Next, please. This is, for example, an example of one project, how we highlighted stakeholders of the project. You can see there banks, tenants, developers, architects, investors, and community. For this project, we have done 200 interviews, and we listen what our customers want from us, and then during this phase of master planning, we created the branch of stakeholders. Next, please, Michael. Next. What we understand if we say quality housing. Quality housing, first of all, we understand the apartment, then the building. But these 3 points, which are in violet colors there, is considering the surrounding. That's mainly the main place for sustainability of the area, not building itself. And here is good parking structures, good parking solutions, landscaping of the area, and location and macro location is the key for good living environment. Zoning of the area is also important. Sometimes you see that newly developed areas, you enter there and you are really bored, and since it's so ugly, cars are dropped whenever there was possible, and you can see any organization in such areas. But we are from very beginning think about the zoning of the areas, and clearly define recreational, green, housing, trading, and other areas. Transport system. On the second picture, you can see how we, in this particular project, we see how the transport will move, what is the system, street profiles, and what is the pedestrian area. We also think a lot about these pedestrian-friendly areas, small squares, small parks, some pedestrian road. On landscaping, we are using this rainwater drainage system, which is called soft engineering treatment. On the left picture is the standard way, when you simply remove the pollution from one place to another place, while in this soft engineering system, treatment system is absorbed by ecosystems of the area. And we are saving a lot on water consumption. Next, please. Biocorridors. This is another important item. When we create biocorridors, it's a good combination, or let's say a good connection of living areas with nature. Building modern social infrastructures. Some developers think that this is additional obligation for them to build social infrastructure, but we ourselves see opportunity for us, and now we are developing with our area project social infrastructure as well and investing in it. We have several good and effective parking solutions as this one in this picture, and later I will show on one area project how we use all these ideas. Public areas, as I said, is very, very critical now, and this may differ our projects from the others. If there is not landmark, the landmark should be created. Landmark should touch the idea, the history, the size of the project, and be some notable element of the area. It can be sporting, it can be spiritual, it can be some multi-purpose hall, but we are thinking on landmark projects.
Artak, sorry for interruption. Those wonderful concepts are relevant to Russian market, or you developing that it's for your global business and then you applying it for Russian market? Does it work in Russia?
Yeah, we have a concept 1YIT. So 1YIT means all policies, all strategies are quite same in all countries. That's first. Secondly, what I am showing here, all of these are Russian projects. This, for example, Ramenskoye Micro District 3. The previous one was Baltim in Yekaterinburg. So here you can see how these typical houses, and we have a production of typical houses, and how we organize the areas with standard houses plus individual, and plus also built-in commercial areas, which creates these pedestrian zones and pedestrian structure of the area. Inside each cluster you see social infrastructures, and also there nearby each building we have set parking, structured parking. Yes, optimizing building envelope. This is energy efficient issue, of course, which is the topic of one of the topics of today. And on the top left picture, you can see where are the areas from which the building loses energy, and you can see percentages there. And first we know how much energy we lose from which place, and then we react accordingly. So the envelope in our houses is very, very developed now in Russia as well. We are doing a huge work on last 3 years. Engineering systems, especially heating and ventilation and hot water, and we are using modern German technologies, and we use also Finnish technologies for recuperating systems, and all those systems which is possible are automated and connected to the website. And we have just recently opened e-portal where our customers can see the consumption of water, electricity online. Sometimes people ask how much is investments in such measures that you do, and I have prepared these slides. So as you see there, the first and the easiest and the cheapest part is to work out with building envelope. Then the second, of course, is engineering systems, but not the edge cutting, the middle ones we implement there. Then next, we are now on the third point when we emphasizing, and next 3 years we will work on and pay the most attention to area sustainability, and we plan to invest a lot on this. And the last point to our understanding is implementation on our area projects alternative energy, such as solar, wind, geothermal. Next, please. But of course there are barriers when you do sustainable development, and most people do not aware what you are going to do. And first, when you explain, they say, even among our general directors in our units, they say that's too expensive. That's their first reaction. Then there is each technology should be tested, and it normally takes 10 years. And when our geography is quite big, and not in all areas we have enough suppliers. The previous one, please. Previous. Yes, in this map is our locations. It is Moscow, St. Petersburg, Moscow Oblast, Rostov-on-Don, Kazan, Yekaterinburg, Tyumen. And few examples of our area project. This is Novoorlovsky, more than 500,000 square meters of housing, and we have 7 kindergartens, 3 schools in this area. Rifei, we have completed, this is almost completed in Yekaterinburg, and it was one of our successful projects. Next, please. Современник on Kazan. Next. Sivers on Rostov-on-Don, and all of these projects are well equipped with engineering system, and they have a very good energy efficiency class, A or B double plus. This is low-rise on Baltim. It's under development, not yet constructed. Yes. And in the end, so what I would like to say, it's converging ideologies responding to regional conditions, I mean climate conditions, optimizing the building envelope, leveraging sun, wind, and water resources, teaching our customers, and maintaining sustainability. It's our next future, current and future steps for next 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Artak. So my understanding is you have the same global approach everywhere. So you are considering same technologies. However, the cost of money in different countries is quite different. The cost of money in Russia right now is very high. Cost of all capital projects in Russia usually is higher than in other countries. Consumer is buying usually on price of capex, not on a lifetime cost. So how you promote this wonderful new sustainable technologies to Russian customer that's not that my perception sometimes is not willing to pay extra money for sustainability?
Yes, Michael, thank you for this question. First of all, we have different kind of products. So starting from economy and economy, comfort, business, and elite. So in Russia, 70% of our portfolio is comfort class projects. What is relative to cost of money, we are working through the corporate loans. So we are not leveraging finances here in Russia, and all money comes from the corporate. Secondly, we first teach our staff, sales staff, to explain customers what is inside of our project. Then we deliver to each project showroom and techno room. On techno rooms, you can see all our technologies which we use. So, of course, people don't know, but we explain, we show, and they see the difference.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the audience? Is there any questions? Yeah. I mean, questions to any speakers, to any panel speakers.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank all presenters for their very interesting speeches. General question is, given current pretty tough political international situation, this fact, does it affect somehow running of your projects here in Russia? Do you postpone your projects? Do you cut? Do you freeze? Or you can continue 100% of your activity? Thank you.
I could say probably on behalf of Association of European Business that we did a lot of efforts. We prepared a lot of letters to government, to European government, to Russian government, promote our position against this political escalation. So we did our best. And I believe that we succeeded, at least with maybe some initial steps to de-escalate some economic situation. So at least we are trying to do our best. Frank, maybe would yeah?
Thank you very much for that.
Since microphone on my hand, maybe I will answer on this question. So recently we have a very good internal strategy seminar and ask this question: how these geopolitical systems will affect on our business, and this capital not availability, how will affect again on our business. And we have highlighted all ecosystem that we have here, and our business environment and our main goals, how these correlate each other, and come to the point that we have to continue the way that we are acting, and we are not freezing any projects, and we plan to grow 15% per year. That's our strategy, long-running strategy for 5 years, and we haven't updated it. Since currently we have very good sales, and so far we have no reason to freeze any project.
Any other panelists would like to come? Peter, what do you like?
No. For us also, let's say, despite the difficult economic situation, our position doesn't change. So there's also no postponement as such of projects. The only issue what you see at the moment is to finance some of the project that is becoming a little bit more difficult. That we see, and I can confirm what you also said, Michael. For us also the same position as you mentioned.
Thank you. Any other questions from audience? Okay. If there is no question, let me conclude on following major topics, what I've heard over here. First, it was very important message about the conflict of interests or West interests as a major hustle to promote, to develop sustainable technologies in Russia. Second, the education of consumers, B2C, B2B, B2G, is extremely important. Consumers, they didn't know about the new technologies. They could not justify economics of projects to use sustainable technologies. Another topic is certification. The case for electric vehicles, the case for some other innovative technologies. Certification takes time, particularly for some severe for some segments like power sector, car industry, other. Then new business models. Some of implementation of sustainable technologies relate to developing new business models, such as battery leasing, what Renault presented, car sharing, and in general implementation of sharing or so-called mesh model. Then another major topic, what Artak mentioned, is about megatrends. Also, another pretty strong statement, what I've heard over here, was about global technologies. The major technologies develop globally for global market, and then only if it's a global technology, it could find an application locally in any market as relevant. Did I miss anything, gentlemen? Then thank you very much for everybody. Thank you very much for participation. Thank you for organizers. Thank you.